Welcome back to the Soul to Self Inner Compass podcast. I'm your host, Victoria. This is a space for spiritual women in business who are healing, growing, and building a life that actually feels like theirs. Today's episode is going to be deep, gentle journey into something that so many of us carry, generational patterns, and how they quietly shape our self-worth, our success, and the way that we show up in the world. This episode builds on the beautiful conversation that I had in the last episode with Jennie. If you haven't listened to that yet, go back and have a listen, especially if you've ever felt like you're breaking cycles, not just for yourself, but for the generations that came before you. So make a cuppa, light a candle, or if you're out for a walk, let's breathe into this episode together. We don't just inherit eye colour, mannerisms, and all of the physiological stuff. We also inherit beliefs, behaviours, and emotional blueprints. So often, what we think of as our stuff isn't ours. It happened a long time before us. It's our mother's scarcity mindset or our grandmother's need to shrink herself. Our father's silence around emotional things. Generational wounds get passed on not through intention, but through survival, really. And when we become aware of them, we end up building lives and businesses and futures for ourselves that are coming from our truth rather than a place of fear. I often relate to this with clients about money. I think money mindset and money beliefs are really quite evident of inherited stories. If you've ever found yourself saying things like money doesn't grow on trees, I know that from my childhood, money doesn't grow on trees was something that was said quite a lot by my mum. And so therefore you start to begin to think that money's hard to come by. And so this is one of the places within your life that you can easily identify a generational belief or blueprint that's gone before you. So it might be worth thinking about what patterns are you repeating that might not be yours? Because I know when I once said to my eldest son, money doesn't grow on trees, it was before the money changed. And he said, well, it kind of does, doesn't it? Because it's made of paper. And I loved that challenge of that thinking. So where in your life do you feel like you're carrying someone else's expectations or thoughts or beliefs that are no longer aligned to something that you believe or something that you think? It's really worth reflecting on. And those generational habitual thoughts, feelings, and actions in some cases are there to be changed, really, for the next generation as much as it is for you now. I think the difficulty sometimes comes is in spotting those hidden emotional blocks and those hidden things, because emotional blocks aren't always like loud and in your face and really obvious. Sometimes they sound like that little thought of, I'm not ready yet, or who am I to do this, or I need to be more like her. Or another good one is, it's for them, not for me, because, or it's easy for them. And I think you can begin to gently uncover those hidden blocks and those things by noticing in yourself where you feel stuck or heavy in your body when you're thinking about something that you know you desire. So again, I'm going to use money as an example. Like when you think about wanting more money in your life, where in your body do you feel that? Is it like a heaviness in the pit of your stomach that's saying, oh, money's hard to come by, or money just goes out faster than it comes in? And ask yourself, like, is that your voice? Whose voice is this really? Is it you that thinks that? And then something that's quite nice to do if you are someone who journals is track the pattern of that. Is this something that you've heard when you were growing up? Journal around it. Where did you first hear that? And what did it first mean to you? And what does it mean to you now? And if you want to take it a step further, maybe like start to unhook from it and start to change that narrative and think about how you can reflect and think about that different. And what that kind of looks like a little bit is starting to reparent yourself. Inner child work, you've probably heard talked about a lot, but sometimes reparenting yourself and checking in with your inner child is really powerful. Meeting your younger self with like this love and compassion to be heard and be seen, and it's a way of giving yourself what you might not have had previously. And that for different people will look like different things, but sometimes it's just validation. Sometimes it's to feel safe. Sometimes it's rest and joy or being free, like being a child. What did being a child mean to you? And the way we take that into our businesses is that it might look like not abandoning yourself when you're mid-launch and things are feeling hard, because those generational patterns may have that voice screaming at you, oh, leave this, it's not for you anyway, it's not going to work out anyway, no one wants what you're launching, no one's buying into it. And that's not necessarily your truth, and it certainly probably isn't the truth. So don't abandon yourself. How can you reparent yourself? How can you be kind to yourself? How can you give your inner child that space to redetermine what they truly believe or reflect on what is their truth? It can also mean saying no. Have you ever heard the saying, no is a complete sentence? I like to remind myself and clients of that quite a lot, because often but not, we sometimes say yes to things that we don't feel aligned with, we don't believe, we don't even want. We just do it out of a sense of, lots of things really, obligation, guilt, just thinking that it will take us somewhere quicker or different. And you have to allow yourself sometimes to say no, and that is part of reparenting. That is part of going to your younger self or your inner child and going, what do you need right now? Is this a good match for you, like energetically, spiritually, physically? This is something you want in your life. So sometimes you just have to say no when people might not like it, but that's on them, not you. And you have to stand really strong and just give yourself space to succeed slowly or go at your own pace when the whole world's telling you from this generational voice to do something differently or act in a certain way. So you have to learn to live in your truth, and that's the truth of now. That's not generational truth or generational past. That's what's for you in this space and time that will move your life and your business and your healing journey and your sense of self forward. So with that, I kind of want to invite you to come back to or pause and have a little reflection of, would your inner child need to hear from you today? If there was one thing that you could give her, what would she be asking for right now? And it's that point in the show where I like to pull a card. And so for today, I have picked up my cards. I've just picked up the ones that were nearest to me on the shelf. They are mindful moments. And what it is saying today is, know that when the mind is quiet, the heart speaks. I think we might have had that on one of the previous shows. So perhaps we need to lean into that a little bit more and just quieten that mind and listen to that heart. And I love that, because it truly is what that shaking of generational patterns and connecting with the inner child is all about, really. It's listening to your heart, it's listening to that knowing, and it's going out of that mind space, dropping deeper into your heart. And so I think that, like, with all that said, I'd like to talk about the role of self-trust, that what self-trust does for our businesses and our lives, because a big part of moving away from patterns of behaviors that have been, or beliefs that have been with you for a long time, sometimes throughout the whole of your life, and sometimes, like we were saying, generationally, you have to have really strong self-trust. And I so often meet people who are in business and have been in business for quite a while, and some that are starting out on their journey, and they're overwhelmed, they're burnt out with trying all of the things, and they've got pages and pages of strategy and ways that they should be growing and things that they should be doing within their businesses, and the strategies just aren't working. And they're like, why is it working? Is it me? Am I rubbish? Can I just not do it? And it really isn't. You're not rubbish, you're amazing. Every person who comes to be an entrepreneur knows that it's hard, but it's also possible for 90% of people who start the journey. Whether you want to stay on the path and do that journey is different. And again, that comes down to self-trust and allowing the awareness of what will give you joy and what is meant for you on your journey of life. Self-trust, though, is something that's built and created in the quiet moments of life. When you don't abandon yourself, when you listen to what you really need, when you tune in, like if you're feeling wiped out and tired, and you go, okay, I'm going to honor my energy today, and I'm going to have an easier day. I'm going to do my most important tasks, which are, I don't know, let's hypothesize, writing an email to my list and posting my latest offer on social media. And you do those two things and you tick them off. And then you've got some lesser things, really, that aren't time sensitive. And you go, okay, I'll come back to them this afternoon if I'm feeling better, or tomorrow. And it's trusting yourself enough to pace yourself in the right way to get through the things without the pressure and without the burnout and without the overwhelm. And that really starts, as bonkers as it might sound, from having that belief that you're enough. Like when we're on the hamster wheel and we're doing all of the things and spinning all of the plates, somewhere at the bottom of that, I truly believe, is someone's energy who just doesn't feel that they're enough without all of that. Because you don't need to be that intense all of the time. Yes, you're going to have times when you need to show up when you don't want to, and you have to check in whether something like fear of being seen, or just that old patterns of behavior are holding you back. But you've got to start trusting in yourself as well, like when to take a rest, when to step back, how to pick out what's important, how to do the thing that's really going to move the needle, and how to let a few other things just go. And I think in healing generational patterns of behavior and thoughts and pressure, and self-trust is how we stop repeating them. And it's saying, stop, the story stops here. And I think it's important to not just say that, but really, really believe it. Now, I want to give you a couple of journal prompts and a bit of a kind of mini ritual today. So the journal prompts, really, what beliefs, behaviors, or expectations am I carrying that no longer belong to me? I'll take some time to really reflect and work through this without judgment, without blame, just presence. Remember that anything that does come up for you that is a generational thing, a generational thought, or a generational behavior, somewhere, someone created that thing with the best intention. And I know it might not feel like that. And I know a lot of people will be like, oh, yeah, right. But it is. Nobody truly sets out to create a behavior, a thought, or a belief with a negative reason behind it. It's basically doing the best they can with what they have at that point in time. I truly believe that. And I truly believe that when we are looking at generational wounds and generational patterns of behavior that have hurt us or have left us with behaviors that are not desired within our lives, being non-judgmental with them and just gently accepting them with love, releasing them is the best way forward. Don't try to make sense of something that isn't yours. You're never going to make sense of it. Sometimes you just have to, with love, let it go. So take some time and just put some thought into that. And then if you're really struggling with this concept, a really good kind of almost mantra or affirmation to say is, I lovingly return what's not mine. I am safe to be who I truly am. Now, there's lots of things you can do with this. You can do this as a little ritual where you write it on a piece of paper and tear it up or burn it safely, or you can just make it part of your practice and say it to yourself to just affirm that the choices that you are making and the direction that you're going in your life is yours. It's not old patterns, it's not generational wounds or trauma or beliefs. It's all yours, and it's safe to just release that. Now, I hope today's episode gave you some real things to reflect on and wasn't too much, because we have touched very lightly on a subject that's huge, and it can be quite a journey of healing, especially when it comes to the deep-rooted patterns. And remember that all of these things, they're not linear. They're like a bit of a spiral shape. They come when it's easier and it's hard and you think you've got it sorted and something else comes out of the woodwork. But you're not on this path alone. You're never alone. And if this episode resonated with you, I'd love to hear from you. You can always DM me on Instagram, and you can always reach out to me at my email. Share your journal insights. Have a conversation with me. I love conversations. And if you are on my mailing list, there's a beautiful free guide that I have at the moment waiting for you to support your soul-aligned growth. Head over to the show notes and grab that. But until next time, remember, you get to grow your business your way. You get to be you, however you want to be and whoever you want to be. You can be soft, you can be truthful, you can act with soul. And as long as you're doing everything with alignment of who you truly are, you'll do it beautifully. And I know you already are. So I'll see you soon. Thank you for being here and listening.